Hey, I'm Mayor Briton Williams. Join me as we explore everything North Augusta. We'll talk state of the city. We'll highlight our vibrant events and areas of the community, showcase our hidden gems, and promote the buzz on our local businesses and citizens. We will share and learn together about our amazing town and everything that makes us South Carolina's riverfront. Let's get started.
Down by the river where the stories unfold, come explore, see what you'll find.
Hey everybody, I'm so excited about this episode of Explore North Augusta because this really is the very first podcast that we'll be airing will be this, and we call it the Heart of the Greeneway. And we've got 3 guests. Now, you're only going to see 2 of them. Our third guest is Thomas Greene, who is a son of former Mayor Tom Greene, who the Greenway was named after. We knew when we wanted to do a podcast on the Greenway how important it would be to get Mayor Greene's perspective, what kind of got his vision started. How did he see the Greenway? Did he ever imagine it would become what it is today? So unfortunately, we lost him several years ago, but we reached out to his son, Thomas. Thomas and his dad were very close. They spoke a lot about the Greenway when Thomas was a young man and young adult. So you're going to be hearing how the Greenway began with his vision and ideas, and you'll hear from Thomas. Does a wonderful job. So this is Thomas Greene.
My father, Tom Greene, genuinely loved North Augusta. He always believed it could be the greatest city in South Carolina. For him, serving on city council or even as mayor was never a job. It was a passion. He was a passionate visionary and did everything he could to help North Augusta reach its full potential. Dad firmly believed that recreation is one of the greatest benefits a city can offer its citizens. He was serving on city council when Riverview Park was built, and he was very proud to be a part of that project. I remember when I was young, he would talk about the Rails to Trails program, how old abandoned railroad corridors were being transformed into trails for biking, running, and other outdoor activities. This movement was gaining momentum in the 1980s, and he wanted North Augusta to be a part of it. He knew that North Augusta had abandoned railroad beds that ran through the heart of the city, and he believed it would provide safe access to very scenic trails that few people had the opportunity to see. And many of those trails ran very close to the Savannah River. He was very active and healthy himself, and he wanted to create a city that encouraged that same lifestyle. I remember him saying how great it would be for parents to drop their kids off at Riverview Park for soccer or baseball practice and then hop on that trail for a run or for a bike ride. He understood this initiative wouldn't be easy. It was a bold, large-scale project, and not everyone saw the value. But he stood by his convictions, and he believed deeply that this trail would become one of North Augusta's greatest assets. And he was right. Years later, my wife and I were training for a marathon, and we did many of our long runs on the Greenway. That's when I really came to appreciate just how beautiful that trail is. To this day, it's still my favorite place to run. He also loved the idea of connectivity. He talked about how the trail would connect neighborhoods. He was proud of the fact that some residents could walk right out of their back doors and be on the trail within minutes. Dad also believed that the Greenway could be more than a recreational path. He believed it could be an economic gateway for North Augusta. When he told me that, I'm not sure I fully understood what he meant. He used to say the trail would connect neighborhoods to local businesses and restaurants. Looking back now, I think even he would be amazed at how right he was. I remember when I was young and we would drive across the 13th Street Bridge, there was nothing but woods and swamp there. I never imagined that area would become what it is today. Hotels, restaurants, parks, apartments, an entire riverfront community has grown there. First time I came back after the Green Jacket Stadium was built, I couldn't believe it was the same place. A couple of years ago, my wife and I visited and stayed at the Crown Plaza Hotel. We went up to the rooftop bar before dinner, and I looked out over the riverfront, and it was buzzing. People were sunbathing, having picnics at the amphitheater. There were a ton of runners and cyclists. There was a line outside Southbound Restaurant. There were a lot of boats and jet skis in the river. There was a baseball game being played in the stadium, and construction crews were working on the new apartment complex. That's when I realized the full economic impact that the Greenway had on the city of North Augusta. Dad always said that riverfront development was one of North Augusta's greatest opportunities, and he was right. That part of the city now feels like a resort, something you'd expect to see in Charleston. Although I don't live in North Augusta today, I'm deeply proud of the city's growth. The fact that the Greenway bears my father's name is something that means a great deal to me and to my sisters Lynn and Susan. The decision to dedicate the Bluebird Trail in memory of my mother, well, we're incredibly grateful for that as well. I'm excited to see how this area continues to grow, and I know my dad would be too.
I'm very appreciative of Thomas for sharing. Now, what we're going to do on site here is we've got these two gentlemen, and I call each of them good friends of mine. We've got Mr. Bob Brooks. Bob was the director of Parks and Rec, probably our longest tenured director of Parks and Rec. His fingerprints on about everything you can imagine when you think recreation in North Augusta, but he's going to give us the perspective from the director as far as, once the idea came from Mayor Greene, what did it look like with the phone call? How did the conversation with CSX start? What was the timeline? How did the city look at costs? Were citizens concerned? Were council behind this? I want to really get his perspective, and I'm going to kind of give him an open-end piece there, and we'll talk about some other things with him later. And then on the far end, my good friend Michael McCauley. Michael and his wife Jennifer own a company called Fleet Feet Franchise, just opened their second store here in North Augusta, an old carpet shop, part of the Beacon Bluff project in our downtown. But Michael is involved with the frogs, and I'm not going to tell you what the frogs are. I'm going to let him tell you what the frogs are and what the frogs have meant to the Greenway over the years, what they've done, and let him kind of promote the fact that if you want to volunteer, if you want to help with the frogs, how you go about doing that, as well as get some personal perspective from him as they have 3 young children. They love the Greenway. Their business is centered around it, so to speak, with shoes. And we are going to have an incredible podcast as we learn, as we explore all things about the heart of the Greenway. So with that, let's get started. Mr. Brooks, Bob Brooks, I've already kind of gave you that intro. So just tell us once, how did it come across when Mayor Greene, this idea that, hey, the rails and trails system kind of motivated me. This was becoming popular in the 80s. Just how did you step into it and walk us through? I'm assuming it was CSX. There had to be a conversation, but what does that look like? And just everything I kind of mentioned, just kind of start and go wherever you want to go with it. That's the fun thing about a podcast.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to share my view on the North Augusta Greenway. As many people know, that was my project that I adopted during my tenure with the city. And I was always very fond of it to the point that I would tell my maintenance folks, we've got to maintain it. We got to keep it nice and neat because it's drawing citizens and people from other communities here in North Augusta.
Yep.
Well, after Mayor Greene mentioned the Rails to Trails program back in 1980 to mayor and council at a staff retreat we had at Hickory Knob State Park, he asked me to start looking for ways that we could develop the Greenway. And my first question to him was, it's owned by not CSX now. It's owned by Norfolk Southern Railroad.
Okay.
And they had recently decided to close 4 or 5 different rail systems in South Carolina. And this particular rail was a spur from the Charleston to Hamburg, and it joined in Augusta, and then it came through here. We decided, got the approval from council to move forward with it.
Right.
So Charles Martin, who was the city administrator, and I decided to, let's investigate it. I had been to a conference in early part of 1980, National Recreation Park Association conference. And on the national level, they were talking about the Rails to Trails program, and how do you get funded on the national level. So that began my interest in it. I pretty well read council right. If we had, say, 50% monies coming from the federals and the state, yes, we'll move forward with it. We can find the money somewhere to proceed. After 3 or 4 years in the planning stages, we finally got council to approve a firm out of Augusta to develop plans for the first phase of it. There are about 9, maybe 10 phases of the Greenway.
Okay.
And each phase has a certain amount of mileage on it. And the first phase was from, which this is part of, was from Riverside Boulevard to Martintown Road. It's 3.2 miles. And as we met with the engineering firm, we contemplated several times about the width of the trail. Should we make it 6 feet for cost? Should we make it 8 feet? Or should we go to the big boy, 10 feet? And naturally, I said, let's go to 10 feet. Let's go
to big boy.
much as we can. Let's get it while we're going. And they concurred, and we started with a 10-foot wide path.
Okay.
From Riverside Boulevard to Martintown Road is 3.2 miles. And there's a marker behind me that's dedicated to former Mayor Tom Greene. He would always tell us, let's go for a win-win situation. And I sort of adopted that through my style of management, and it really works.
Yep.
After the 3.3 miles was completed, we had to decide what was going to be phase 2. Are we going north or are we going south with it? So after presentation from Charles and me, the council did decide we were going north with it. And that presented the obstacle of crossing Martintown Road. There was no tunnel. There were no bridges. Let me regress just a moment. You asked me earlier about the cost. The first phase was a 50-50 match, and it was, at that time, it's about $120,000.
Wow.
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 We tried to negotiate with Norfolk Southern
That's incredible.
to donate it, and they wouldn't donate it. They said it's so many adjoining property owners. If we start donating, we'll have to donate to everybody who's adjoining it. So the best thing for you to do is let us do an appraisal on it, and we'll make the cost as low as we possibly can.
And they were receptive to that? They were receptive to us buying it?
Yes.
They were at a point where, hey, it's abandoned. We don't want to mess with it.
They were ready to move on.
Good. Okay.
They would even leave the rails. If you wanted them, you could, and we kept a couple of them, and there's some pieces around
Okay.
in the city where the rails are.
Okay, I need to look for those. Yeah, okay.
So that was the first about $120,000.
God almighty.
From Martintown to Pisgah, yeah, thank you. Martintown to Knotty Pine was the first one.
Okay. Oh, yeah, 95.
Knotty Pine. That had a lot of issues with it. It was parallel to a sewer easement, which the city had, and a lot of wetlands through there. And it even got worse when we went from Knotty Pine to Pisgah Road. More wetlands, had problems with the sewers. They were finally renovated, so they stopped overflowing. And what we came up with this idea. The city was trying to annex more property north.
Yep.
Why couldn't, and I asked Charles Martin, I said, why can't we use utility funding and put a water line in the middle of the Greenway? And he said, let me check and see, but I believe that's a good idea. I think we can do that. So there's a water line underneath the Greenway running to Pisgah Road, and it's been tapped several times.
And that was the funding source.
That was the city's part of the city's.
Creativity, you're creative.
Well, we were just trying to get by, you know. You have to think outside the box on a lot of things. So we finally got to Pisgah Road, but we still had the problem of crossing Martintown Road. And what we did there was we decided we were going to put a parking area there at Martintown Road up on the hill there. And that would be one of the first parking lots in the city that was just stone and grass. There was really no place for the runoff to go, so we had that. Tom Caesar helped develop it so the water would penetrate.
Okay.
But we didn't have any runoff. That was a good thing. But we did utilize the driveway coming down from the parking lot, and it gave us access to the sidewalk on Martintown Road. You just had to be cautious crossing Martintown. We put up signage. But it wasn't too long before SCPRT, which is South Carolina Parks and Recreation Tourism, they had federal money and they were looking for places to put it with regards to trails. It was called the South Carolina State Trails Fund. They had like $250,000 that had not been committed. Of course, I had applied for grants all along from them for the Greenway. The director called me and said, we've got some leftover money. Are y'all interested in it? I said, what do you mean, y'all? Yes, we are. So he said, well, $200,000 is yours. Go ahead and try to get the bridge in for $200,000 plus the city's 25%. So I got Tom Caesar involved, and he designed the supports for it, and we bought a bridge that's still there today from a commercial company. And it is about 9 feet wide instead of the 10. But you really don't know the difference there.
Well, you know, I remember when they put that bridge up. They had blocked off all of Martintown Road. That's right. And we were it was like a big party.
That's right.
And people had had blankets and picnics. I remember taking our kids, and probably from Roland Funeral Home all the way up. I mean, it was fun. And watching that, maneuvering that trestle, that bridge, I mean, that was a big event.
That's right.
All right, I didn't interrupt. I just had to throw that. That was fun. That was my kids' talk. Still remember that.
I know. That's a good point, because it came in 3 sections, and they had to use heavy-duty cranes to pick it up, and as you mentioned, very slowly move it and set it on the pivot points. Great amenity for the city to have. So we had to finalize the bridge, which meant we had to put a lightweight concrete bottom in it.
Okay.
And address the connection groups so it would be smooth for bikers and walkers. And that was done. Once that obstacle was crossed, which by the grace of God, the money just happened to come.
Well, let me ask you this. So you're telling me, because I don't even remember this, that was the Greenway ever opened from across Martintown prior to the bridge?
There was a roundabout there, yes.
So people would actually I'm on the Greenway, I'm going down that driveway, and I'm actually walking across?
No. We had a terminus there.
Okay.
where the bridge was, before the bridge was in, where the old trestle was. We had a terminus there.
Okay.
And it was, signs were there. It was posted that he had to turn around and come back this way.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I got you. Okay.
And we got a little bit, we got a little bit of heat for that. So, but that's all we could do.
I got you. Okay.
And the bridge cost like $265,000. So the city had expense $65,000. Unbelievable.
It really is almost.
And it's still there. Very, very nice. And other bridges in the city have that same design has been used throughout on the Greenway and on other connection bridges. Then we come into phase 4. From Riverside Boulevard, we went to the clubhouse.
Okay. Yeah.
We had right of way there. And as you know, there's a roundabout down there that you have to turn around and come back because that's private property. Phase 5 was the extension of the riverfront. It's 1.5 miles on the riverfront. And prior to that, the city bought 28 acres adjacent to Riverview Park, and it goes that direction toward the river. Keeping council involved, they did agree that we would have public access to the river by utilizing the Greenway. And therefore, from Front Street to the river is all city property. From Front Street back is private property. And I think that was one of the best decisions council made.
Were y'all doing that piece of it? That did not coincide at all with anything on the riverfront development.
No.
That did not coincide with Hammond's Ferry or any of that. That was all in place before any of that happened, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was in place, and as you know, the part along the river, which it does flood at times, is 6-inch concrete, so you don't have to worry about it. It's there. And that was a great amenity that brought in Beck Park.
Great amenity.
All the connections there. It has been changed several times because of Hammond's Ferry. You can go around by the SRP Park and come back to the traffic circle on Riverside. Phase 6 was the 1.1 mile from Pisgah Road to Bergen Road. Now, this was really a challenge. It went through the property around Pinion Road.
County, yeah.
We had an FBI agent that lived out there, and he was very nice. He invited Charles and me into his house, and we had a great conversation. He bought into it. He said, "I'm retiring, and I would like to have a place to walk." And I said, "You have it. All we need is for you to agree and sell us 10 feet of your property, because we wanted to have enough property so we could slope the banks down." And that section through there is like 20, some sections are 25 feet in width and some are 30. And that's due to the property owners not wanting the Greenway through there. And a lot of the resistance from them was, I don't want people looking in my house. I don't want people walking at nighttime looking in my house or just being around my house. So some areas there we had to screen it with chain link fencing and put some greenery on it that finally grew and covered them.
Was that really the main area that y'all got any blowback from citizens? Were people pretty receptive to everything else?
No, sir. Okay. Hammond Hill was another section. Section around Campbellton, they were very anti, but we kept listening to them. We kept doing as much as we possibly could, and planting additional plant material helped more than anything. And in a few years, they had put in their own walkways to the Greenway.
Isn't that funny?
It is. So we overcame that one obstacle as well.
They almost had to have it done for them to understand. They couldn't see it.
That's right.
Yeah. Huh.
We got to, from Bergen, we did get to, as you know, at Bergen Road, there's also a parking area.
Yep.
And now there's a tunnel that goes under Bergen Road right on up. But this terminus is basically at Warren Court. And we wanted to get to Warren Court because we were just planning to try to get the North Augusta Country Club some kind of way.
I know. We're still trying to figure that out.
Just trying to get it where it could be used as connectors for all those neighborhoods out there. And most of those neighborhoods, when they were developed, had Greenway connectors put in by the developer. And we have to thank Skip Gurkovic for a lot of those. Connectors are very important because you can you can ride on the streets in there, and then you will come up to a connection which take you to the Greenway, and you can go anywhere you want to.
That's right.
But there are other phases that have been planned. One of them is the connector to Augusta's walkways. And I think that will come once the new bridge is put in. And then it would connect, their pathway would connect to Columbia County's pathways. And it would get us out to Savannah Rapids Pavilion.
Let me ask you this. You talk about the different phases. Did you have, did council, was there a map, a plan from the beginning that you shared the vision that this is the miles we were going? Or was initially you had it, maybe internally, and your focus was, we're just trying to get phase one done, and that's what you tried to sell or promote to the community?
Community, that's what we used. Council, we had the full plan.
Okay, I was about to say, because that's the, because we've had that conversation about the downtown Greenway connector.
Right.
We're just trying to pass the vision. Can we get it up to Main Street? Because if you just, that's enough to try to get, just like y'all are trying to deal with one section of people.
Yeah.
If they can't get past a section, they can't even imagine the whole thing.
That's right.
Okay, good. Okay.
You're exactly right.
I got you. Okay. So you took it as far as the community, you took a section at a time.
That's right.
Promoted. Okay. Let me ask you, because I know there have been some people who are passionate about cycling on the Greenway. As far as the city, that long-term vision, those different phases, you talked about getting over to Augusta and connecting that Bartram Trail. Was the thought of even getting all the way out to Edgefield, was that even kind of like beyond? Was there any conversation at any point of maybe at some point way down the road?
Yes.
Okay.
You remember the name, Miss Ellen Smith?
Sure.
Okay. Her initial goal when we were going north on it, she wanted to get to Fox Creek.
Wow.
Subdivision out there.
Okay.
And matter of fact, when we were at one of our council meetings, Norfolk Southern had come to the city and said, we're ready to sell some more property right away. And we agreed to give you first dibs on it if you want it. Well, it fell by a vote of 4-3. They sold it to the Jordan property owners. And that's the obstacle that stops us from going to any further north.
Okay, so you're saying there was a piece of property that was some of the railway that Norfolk Southern wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
And it came to council.
Yeah.
And it was voted down.
Yes.
4-3.
Yeah.
So if that had been approved,
we would have been at Fox Creek, and we would have been at the old Northview Park, where the Greenway ran through there, and on that piece of property that the city had bought years ago, there are 4 ponds.
That's the first time I ever heard this.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And there has been talk. We were talking about going to Edgefield.
Okay.
the state was loving it because they were going to consider this part of the South Carolina Trails route.
Sure.
And they were willing to fund some of the monies. But those 3 property owners stopped it.
Huh. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting. It's right.
It really is.
I did not know that. Okay. Did you ever think at what point, because when you're in a project, I mean, you got tunnel vision. I mean, you're trying to deal with all these different things. Was there a particular point in time, was there a particular phase, or when y'all got to a certain point that you kind of said, oh my goodness, this is really incredible? I mean, you can sit now and say, oh my God, can you imagine what we did? I mean, because, did you ever have the opportunity to think through, this is going to be something people will be writing about, this place in articles? I mean,
yeah.
When did that was there a point that kind of aha, like, wow, we really have done something?
Yes, council just praised where we were. And I remember Mayor Greene saying it's been a win-win situation for us.
It is. It's a win. Oh my goodness.
So we made all our efforts had to do with making the adjoining property owners and the residents happy.
I think you have. I got one more thing I want to ask you about that people don't realize. So when you're going down from the main Greenway, this direction where it splits, you kind of go down that hill, and then there was a piece of the creek that there's a TTX rail car.
That's correct.
So was that always was that done, I couldn't remember if that was done later? Was there an old bridge there, or was that done when y'all completed it? Talk about that.
That TTX rail car was, it was a flatbed trailer, basically.
Right.
And it was 45 feet long.
Yeah.
TTX donated that to us. And all we had to do was pay to get it moved from their yard to the property where it was going, and make sure if they had a sign there, it was donated by them. And that saved us a couple $100,000 there.
And they just kind of came to y'all, or did you have?
Well, I have some good friends who work there, and he came to me and said,
Charles Taylor?
Charles was one of them. He had to make the decision, if we can approve that, if I can approve it, speaking for Charles, he said, if I can approve it, I will. But I got to go to the TTX headquarters and see what they say. And what they had was an old rusted out one, so they said, yeah, donate it.
Well, I think that's a cool feature, the way
it is. And there again, Tom Zeeser designed the railing and the footings for it. And we had a crane to come in and set it. And then it was painted, and the lightweight concrete was put in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. All right, thank you. We may come back to some things, but so you mentioned about amenities and on some benches. Michael, you heard me talk about frogs. People hear that term. Kind of, what is a frog? I mean, we know what a frog is, but tell me about the frogs and kind of give us a little bit about that organization. Sure. I'm going to kind of open it to you to kind of run with it.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for that rich history. I mean, that was fantastic. And we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for you and administration at the time, and council, and the property owners that.
Amen to that.
I mean, it's the reason I live it's the reason I moved to North Augusta, and the reason I chose to put a business here, a walking and running shoe business, was because of the Greenway. Really quick story. I moved here 16 years ago last month, and the first Saturday I came down to investigate to see if this would be a good spot to put a business, and I stood on the Greenway down near Martintown, actually, and I just counted walkers, runners, cyclists, and when I got to 150, I left and said it's time to get busy, and that was. I was surprised in a really pleasant way, and that was a decade or so after y'all had done what you did. So thank you. But yeah, it's been really good. I love the Greenway. Briton, you were asking me about frogs.
Yeah.
It's an acronym. Friends of the Greenway.
Okay.
It's sort of an acronym, I suppose. But essentially, FROG is an organization through North Augusta Forward. It can be a little confusing at times, but it's basically a subcommittee of that group. And it's been in place probably for about almost 20 years at this point. I believe it predated me a little bit. We had former council members and different people involved with it at the time that I started getting involved. And it's definitely changed and evolved over the years. We recently we have handpicked a really diverse user group to be on that committee and reinvigorate things a little bit. And the goal for Friends of the Greenway really is to work hand in hand with the city in whether it might be installing benches, building a bathroom, or striping it, or whatnot, various grants and other things that have happened over the years. And I'm going to leave a lot out probably. The bridge that you guys were talking about with the rail car, I was down there a couple years ago repainting it. The city supplied the paint and we supplied the labor. So it was really perfect hand-in-hand partnership.
Win-win, yeah.
In terms of, we recently, last year, Friends of the Greenway and North Augusta Ford were able to put a new bathroom in conjunction with the Hammond Hills Suburban Club and in conjunction with the city. We were able to fund the bathroom, and the city came alongside and funded the path to the bathroom. There was no sidewalk there, and Hammond Hills Suburban Club agreed to help as well. And so it's just a very positive organization, a positive partnership for the community.
Did y'all participate, or I can't remember if it was the city, did y'all participate in putting the emergency miles?
Yeah. So that was actually one of my ideas, because if any listeners or viewers will remember, during COVID times, the Greenway usage jumped dramatically. I heard numbers as 200 to 300% more people out here. The city, for those of you that don't know, the city does have in at least 2 or 3 spots counters to track Greenway users, the number of users. So they were able to provide a little bit of data, and there were at least 2 to 3 incidences, whether it was a bike wreck or an accident happened, where people were on the Greenway. They didn't know. Someone would stop and call 911, but they didn't know where to tell them to go. And so former council member Fletcher Dickert was a big proponent for that and actually helped push that forward as well. And between Friends of the Greenway and council at that time, really to implement that safety feature. And I believe that most public safety officers, or all public safety officers, have a map of that in their vehicle to get assistance there, whether it's EMS or an officer or whoever.
And what exactly, can you describe what it is on the Greenway? It's like a decal?
It's just a round, glossy decal. And honestly, probably some of them need to be redone. That's a conversation we can have another time. But yeah.
It has some coordinates on it.
Right.
It has the cord. You can say I'm at S11 or S12,
Exactly,
and the
okay.
officer, whoever, will be able to get there quickly.
I mean, but that's an incredible contribution.
Sure it is.
Yeah, I mean, well, if the Greenway is not safe, and if we have even one horrible incident on it, which there have been some in the past, but the most we can do to minimize and prevent that and keep people safe and make people feel safe, especially in light of some of the things that have happened over the last few years with, particularly with females out running alone. It's extremely important.
Are y'all still taking donations or people who want to sponsor benches? Are we still doing that?
Yes, we're really looking to streamline that. One thing that Friends of the Greenway and North Augusta Ford do is the city has given us the opportunity to take charge of the kiosks that are on the Greenway. And currently, there are not any kiosks really on the Greenway because of the lovely hurricane that we experienced. But our goal with that is to put a QR code in that kiosk, and you can just scan it. It'll take you straight to a website where you can donate a bench. We try to do them in batches to prevent lower shipping costs.
Okay, I don't even know where these kiosks are.
Well, there used to be one right behind you, and it's basically at every entry point there should be a kiosk with a map,
Okay.
and some pertinent information, relevant information in it.
So I need to start walking farther. That's the problem. Okay, I'm not walking long enough on the Greenway. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to get more health.
Another feature that I would be wrong if I didn't mention this, but all the bluebird boxes that you see on the Greenway,
Yes.
those are all maintained by Friends of the Greenway in North Augusta Ford as well.
Yes.
And there's a lovely lady, Janice Krause. I hope she listens, but she has a team of helpers that I can't remember the number.
She'll actually be on her. She's going to be on a future podcast.
Yes, good.
She will be. So we got Jad to take care of.
Excellent. She puts a lot of work into it.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yes. Okay, very good. Well, all right. I've learned a ton. I'm kind of mad at myself, quite frankly, as often as you and I have been on things. That I didn't know more about this. But just, why don't you just each, if you would, I'll start with you, Michael, just the future of North Augusta. What the importance of the Greenway, and, because one of the things before I ask you this question, one of the things that you heard from Thomas was, which I didn't realize, is Mayor Greene, Charles Martin would tell you, in his brain, the Greenway was strictly recreation. But Mayor Greene did think that there was a potential for it to also be an economic catalyst.
That's right.
And both of you, especially when Bob was on council with me as my mayor pro tem, my first 2 years as mayor, is the downtown Greenway connector. So kind of share with me, what you see the importance of that, and share what your thoughts about that.
Well, the Greenway is a huge economic catalyst. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't live here. I wouldn't own a business in this city if it wasn't here. And the way I look at it as a linear park, it's how many miles is it? 12?
12.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. And I meet people all the time in my business or wherever, and they're like, "Oh, you live in North Augusta? You live downtown North Augusta?" Yeah, I can walk, run, ride a bike, whatever, to the Greenway. And people, and I'm not just talking about real estate, but this is a desirable town to live in.
Yes.
And the Greenway is a huge factor in that.
Yes.
I also love the school system. I'm a little biased with my kids there, but the Greenway is a huge factor to that. It's enormous.
Okay, good. Bob, how about you?
The Greenway is one of the main reasons people move to North Augusta. Several friends of mine, they're out here all the time, or in the neighborhood where the Greenway is, having access to it. Something I did not mention was the Palmetto Parkway Greenway. Yeah. That particular one is perfect for bikers. It does not meet ADA standards because of the lay of the land there. And that particular section was built at no cost to the city by SCDOT.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes we neglect to maintain that part of the Greenway. And it runs from but it begins out here off of Muskogee Lake Road. And the city had paid like the back taxes on the property there where the old milk depot was, pet milk depot. I think we paid about $11,000 in the back taxes, and that was deeded to the city. And then the city tore down all of those facilities there, and the idea was make a trailhead there, and that's still in the works as far as I'm told.
Well, just to let you know, we now, and they're starting to get some publicity, but we have finally formed, we have a 3-person Greenway team. And we actually have a supervisor, Jake, and part of their plan is to ensure that piece of the Greenway is taken care of. It's no longer going to be, gee, we pull something from here to do that.
That's right.
It has become, so I think that's been a good move by the city, and I expect we get really real benefit from that, because you both said people move here because of Greenway. It's a jewel, it's everything. We got to be willing to designate what it takes to maintain it.
Yep.
to keep it special.
And Mayor Williams, one more thing that you may be aware of, but Jake does sit on the Frog Committee now.
Oh, good, perfect.
I met him last week.
Very good. Okay.
Very excited to have him.
I'm very impressed with him. He's going to do just what we need, so I'm excited about that. So, all right, well, this was fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I think folks, our listeners, learned something. I know I did. And again, it is really the heart. You've learned about the heart of the Greenway. And we thank you for your time, and get out there and explore North Augusta. Have a good one.
Down by the river where the stories unfold, North Augusta's got a heart of gold, a hidden gem, one of a kind. Come explore, see what you'll find. Catch a ball game, hear the cheer. Events held throughout the year. Take a stroll where the Greenway lies. Feel the history, let it shine. Or don't just visit, come and stay. Feel the magic every day. From river views to golden hues, North Augusta welcomes you. So come on down, take a ride. Let the river be your guide. South Carolina's shining bright. North Augusta feels just right.